I'm here about 10 miles outside Jerusalem, just a couple of miles really from Bethlehem, the birthplace of Jesus. And this is the place where I am that Herod the Great built his palace known as the Herodian. Let me tell you about Herod the Great. He was born a civilian, but his father was a high-ranking Roman official. And eventually, Herod steps into the political realm, kind of following in his father's footsteps, but he works his way all the way up the ranks and eventually was appointed by the Romans to be king of Judea. His title, King of the Jews. Now, he was an impressive man, self-made, and he wanted a big life. He wanted power and the architecture to put it all on display. In fact, his buildings were known the world over. He built grand buildings like the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, the Masada, and the place where I'm standing, the Herodian. It's in ancient ruins today. You can kind of see it behind me, but Herod built a magnificent palace for himself right here. He told engineers of that time that he wanted to build on top of this specific mountain, but he also wanted a view of Jerusalem. Now, the problem is there was no way to view Jerusalem and be on this specific plot of land. So what did Herod do? He commanded that they literally move a mountain and make this mountain twice as big. And so that's what they did. They moved dirt and rocks and sand, and they made this huge mountain that I'm standing on. And they built the palace right on top where Herod could have his 360-degree view of this vast kingdom. Herod was known for his ambition, for his self-made success, and not being ashamed to flex his power so that everybody knew how glorious he was. However, as is the case many times for people putting on grand displays on the outside, Herod was deeply troubled on the inside. Insecure, paranoid, always watching for someone who was going to be a threat to his kingdom, his power, his position. I mean, this guy was just never secure. In fact, his insecurity leaked into his own family. He had one of his wives killed, thinking that she was plotting against him. Same thing with two of his sons. He had two of his sons strangled, one son beheaded. He built the Masada. The Masada fortress was a getaway in case of a revolt, and it included a lifetime supply of food just in case. He was constantly worried that someone was going to threaten his power. The historian Josephus, he wrote that when Herod was dying of a painful illness, that he was so concerned that no one would mourn his death, that he commanded a large group of popular men or of honorable men to come to Jericho and ordered that they be killed when he died so that mourners would actually show up. He was so afraid that no one would show up to his funeral because he was so unpopular that he ordered these other people to be there so that someone would show up and mourn his funeral. You know, at Christmas, we don't think about all of that with Herod, but that character trait, his insecurity, shows up in the Christmas story as well. You know, over in Matthew 2, he's so threatened by the birth of a baby known as the King of the Jews that he commands all the boys under the age of 2 to be slaughtered. No one was to threaten Herod's kingdom that he had spent his lifetime building for himself. No one. And so it's really kind of jarring to look at the life of this larger-than-life narcissist tyrant of a king, and then that little baby, Jesus, that ushers in a new kingdom. Of course, Jesus, 28 years later, that baby will grow up to be a man who built things too. Jesus was a carpenter by trade, but as he steps into public ministry, Jesus would stand near this place and he'd say, you know, by faith, you can move a mountain as well. I can just imagine him pointing over to the Herodians saying, no doubt this is exceptional, what Herod did, but with God in charge, you can do things even greater than this. See, Jesus wasn't impressed by Herod. Jesus also said things like, if you hear my words and apply them to your life, you're going to build your life on solid rock, not sand. And when he said that, Jesus very well may have been referring not only to the sandy foundation this palace was built on, but maybe Herod's personal life as well. I mean, they both eventually crumbled, leaving only ancient ruins behind. In contrast, Jesus was secure. He knew his identity. He was the Son of God, and he lived in the security of God's love for him. Jesus was a king, but not like Herod was a king. Jesus was a king that aimed at serving people, not slaughtering them, not exploiting them for his own glory and fame. Jesus wasn't a king that needed to build a fortress to protect his life from people. He was a king who willingly laid down his life for all people. Jesus didn't need to build palaces and fortresses. He came to build the kingdom of heaven on earth through the transformation and redemption of human hearts. And so, as I stand up here on this man-made mountain, it's hard not to be impressed with the achievement, admittedly. But it's also making me ask the questions. I've been thinking through Herod's life. It's making me ask a couple of questions that I would invite you to ask along with me. What foundation should we be building our life upon? What are the things that are rock in our life? And what are the things that are sand? And then, whose kingdom should we really be pursuing anyway? Whose fame? Whose glory? Whose kingdom?